Today I want to talk about 5 things that a super healthy team should have, and it all has to do with the leader. So are you ready for this? All right, today we're going to talk about 5 things that the most healthy teams do out there, or maybe if you're not one of those healthy teams just yet, maybe what you should be doing. And before we dive into these 5 things, I want to throw almost my disclaimer out, if you want to call it that, is that I'm talking to team leaders, but I'm also talking to team members of real estate teams, of brokerages, and all different sizes and forms, and think of it that way. So listen to this through the filter that fits you best. And what I would say for the team leaders out there is that, or really to the team members, is that team leaders became a team leader usually because they created a lot of success and they were capable of creating a lot of business, and they started surrounding themselves on how to help them do that. What they haven't been done is formally trained as a leader yet. And so what I want to do is help add to that today and just give you another layer of things that team leaders should be thinking about. And if you're a team member, maybe you should poke your team leader and say, hey, let's do 1 or 2 of these. So let's dive right in. Number one is, whose goals are you following? And the question comes for the team leader is, did you set a goal? Did you give it to the whole team, and did you say that's what you were going to accomplish? Did you say, hey team, we're going to sell 100 houses this year, and did you expect for the entire team to be able to sell 100 houses? Or did you ask team member number 1, how many homes do you plan on selling this year, and how are we going to get there, and why is this important that you sell that many homes? They may say the number is 35, and then the next person may say 15, and the next person may say 25. Now we're up to 75 homes. Is it appropriate to push those team members to do more than maybe their partner next to them, or help reach your goal? Or maybe it's on you to hire your next team member so the team leader can hit their goal of 100. So what I want you to think about is, I like to be vulnerable sometimes, and I like to talk about the mistakes that I've made in my past. Years ago I said, hey, we're going to sell X number of homes. I set the goal, and come to the end of the year, everybody was really healthy financially, everybody was doing a good job, but the goal didn't get hit. And it was kind of deflating, if you want to call it, come fourth quarter, when everybody's just absolutely killing it, but we didn't hit the big goal. And it was all my fault because I didn't add up the number of all my team members' goals and then go from there. Think about how you're adding up your goals and how are you holding them accountable. That's number 1. Number 2, I'm a big fan of delegation. You may have heard me talk about it, but delegate it, but more importantly, show that you're delegating it. And the way that I think it's appropriate to do that as a team leader is 2 things. You should have 2 charts behind your wall, or on your wall, or wherever the world can see it internally. And what I mean by that is this chart number 1 should have your current organizational chart. So anybody who's worked with me, they've seen the chart hanging on my wall, and the first chart is the current organizational chart. It literally spells out, what does a team look like? What does your brokerage look like? And it may say, I'll use an example for another team that I know right now, and what hers says is, it says that there is her on top, and then she's got her operations manager, and she's got her marketing manager, and she's got her the catch-all, the assistant. I'm not saying that these have to be perfect and formal, but we know that that's what that is. And then there's the agents underneath that person, and who answers to who. It just lets everybody know what currently does the organization of your team look like. And I think that's really important, because there are many times team members don't know who to ask, so they just don't ask. We don't want that to happen. The other chart that I want you to have is the organizational visionary chart. Have you ever had a team member, or maybe you're interviewing somebody and you had someone ask you, how can I move up in the business? How can I move up in the team? How can I move up in the company? And the reason they're asking those questions is, 1, because they probably have some sort of doubt of where they're at and where they can go. So they're feeling you out. They want to know what's going on. And so if you already have that, the biggest vision you can possibly see on this chart over here. So think of it this way. You may say you're the CEO of your company right now, but I want you to think bigger than that. What if you hired a CEO of your company and you're above that? And you've got your CFO, and you've got your chief, all these funny names they come up with. Maybe it's just chief morale officer. But then you've got maybe your ISA team, you've got your marketing, you've got your transactional team. Like, how big can you see your team? What does it look like? Maybe you go even higher than that. Maybe you're throwing in a non-for-profit, another business. Who knows what it may be? But if you remove names by the way, remove names from this one as well, and just put titles and positions, spell out exactly as big as you can see what it looks like, and then they will come up and say, I'd like to be this, I'd like to be that. And then now you're working as a team collectively to get to the same goal. So delegate, 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 but make sure you show them. Number 3, SOP. I'm sure you may have heard of that. If you haven't, it stands for Standard Operating Procedure. So again, team leaders, you were rock stars when you were producing, or maybe you're still producing, you're still a rock star. How do you transfer those skills and those processes to the people that you've chosen to surround yourself with? So think of it this way. Let's just go super simple. You have a way of doing an open house, right? We all have our own way of doing an open house. Does your team members know exactly how to do it down to the T? Do they know the part before the open house, and do they know the parts after the open house? How to follow up, what to say, all of those things. Is that in your standard operating procedure, and does it go into your living manual, maybe in Google Drive or somewhere where anybody can go there and see it at any time? Here's a good one. How do I get my paycheck? What's the standard operating procedure on how to get my paycheck? The last thing you want is a team member to come up to you and say, hey, I didn't get my check, and then you've got to tell them, well, it's because you didn't have these boxes checked off. If they have the standard operating procedure in place, it's good to go. Brownie points, you make a video of anything that you have to repeat, especially if it's a little complex. Put it on YouTube, private channel, throw a link into your SOP, let them watch you do it. So number 3, SOP, think about that. Number 4 is GCI. So GCI stands for Gross Commission Income. Anybody who's in the real estate business understands that. I like to look at it through another filter. A mentor of mine shared this with me once, and it was really brilliant. It was GCI stands for Growth, Culture, and Innovation. Growth, Culture, and Innovation. So think about that. As the leader of your team, have you found yourself ever being the assistant for your team? Have you ever found yourself running to do the things that aren't focusing on growth, culture, and innovation? If you ever find yourself in that position, you should really take a step back and think, maybe am I not delegating correctly? Maybe I'm a control freak and I can't let go. Sometimes we need to let go of things. So what I want you to think about is, as a team leader, everything you do, are you focusing on one of those 3 things? Growth, recruiting. Maybe it's not just people. Maybe it's process. Maybe it's growth on your customer base. Whatever you want to look at it. How are you growing your business? Culture. Culture is like, why do people want to join your team? It should lead with because they think that they would fit in, and then all the pieces should come after that. And then innovation, how are you leveraging technology? Are you getting coaching? Is someone helping you? Who's your mentor? Who's going to make you better? Focus on those 3 things. Number 5, data-driven decisions. No more emotional decisions. Could you imagine a life like that? So I'm talking to you, team leader, and what I mean by that is do you have things in place that allow you to make data-driven decisions versus the emotional decisions? And let me lead with the painful one, the emotional decisions. Have you ever found yourself wondering, should I keep this person or should I let them go? Should I spend more time with this person, or have I already given them all the time that they deserve? And here's a good one. Do you ever stay up awake at night, like literally you're awake, worrying about somebody who's like happily sleeping in their bed at home right now? Like, that's a problem. And it all has to do with you aren't set up the way that you should be when it comes to making the right decision. So what I mean by data-driven decisions is, do we have a process in place to make decisions 100% by data? Let's think about, you guys may in the past videos have heard me talk about online lead generation. Should I keep spending money on Zillow or should I not spend money on Zillow? Instead of going off of a gut feeling, oh, these leads are good or bad, or it's really expensive and I'm not sure if it's paying off, what if you knew your cost per lead, your cost per appointment, your cost per closing, so you can make data-driven decisions? Maybe it's about your team. Maybe your team's getting to a size where you're not sure if someone on your team is, making the cut to be on your team, and you have to make an emotional decision to let them go. Well, guess what? When you do that, it's not going to be good because you can't please everybody. So why don't you take a step back and think about, how do I create a process so the whole team understands that this is the minimum standard that we have to be on our team? And when that threshold is crossed where you're not meeting that minimum standard, they should come to you and be worried about how do I position myself on our team to be successful the way that the team's designed, versus you having to go to them and say, hey buddy, I don't think you're making it. Those are tough. So the 5 things we talked about today was, whose goals are you going to follow? Are you following your team's goals, or are you following the individual's goals to create the team goal? Delegate it, show that organizational chart, show the visionary organizational chart. Are you operating with an SOP, your standard operating procedure? GCI stands for growth, culture, and innovation. Almost threw myself off there. Growth, culture, and innovation. And then lastly, are you making those data-driven decisions? I hope you are. I hope this was helpful. Hey, let me know in the comments here, which one of these right here do you think you need to focus on more? Because we'd love to help out. Thanks.